Dating my captain sounded like a dream. Then practice started. But before practice, before coach, before the team, and before reality came back to ruin everything, I had one perfect night where I let myself believe I was the luckiest freshman alive. Chris liked me. I repeated that sentence so many times in my head that it stopped sounding like English and started sounding like a medical condition. Chris, my cold, handsome, emotionally confusing captain, had held my hand in the athletic training room. He had told me I was the one thing he didn't want to lose. He had kissed me again, softly this time, on purpose this time, like he was fixing the panicked little disaster I had caused in the locker room. And now he was driving me back to my dorm because my ankle was wrapped, my pride was bruised, and apparently I could not be trusted to walk across campus without turning a mild sprain into a tragic freshman documentary. The campus was quiet outside the car window. Late-night lights spilled from dorm windows. A few students crossed the sidewalk with backpacks, takeout bags, and the tired expressions of people who had already underestimated college homework. I should have been thinking about ice, elevation, and whatever very responsible instructions the athletic trainer had given me. Instead, I kept looking at Chris's hand on the steering wheel. That hand had held mine. That hand had helped me stand. That hand had probably destroyed Westfield's entire emotional stability during the scrimmage. Very versatile hand. "You're staring," Chris said. I snapped my eyes to the window so fast my neck almost filed a complaint. "I'm observing." Chris glanced at me, one eyebrow lifting. "Observing what?" "Campus safety." "At my hand." I opened my mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. "Your hand was near the window." Chris made a small sound that was almost a laugh, and my entire body reacted like I had just won a national championship. This was dangerous. Extremely dangerous. Having a crush on Chris from a distance had already been bad enough. Having Chris actually like me back felt like being handed a live firework and told to act normal. When we pulled up near my dorm, Chris parked by the curb and got out before I could pretend to be independent. He walked around to my side, opened the door, and gave me that look. The captain look. The one that said, "Argue if you want, but you will lose." "I can walk," I said. "You can limp," Chris corrected. "That is still a form of walking." "Antoine." One word. My name. In that low voice. My self-respect immediately packed a suitcase and left the state. "Fine," I muttered. Chris helped me out carefully, one hand steady at my arm. He didn't make a big show of it. He didn't hover in a dramatic way. He just stayed close enough that if my ankle gave out, I knew he would catch me before I even had time to embarrass myself. Which was rude. How was I supposed to survive someone being quietly protective? We moved slowly toward the dorm entrance. I could feel his warmth beside me, could hear the soft rhythm of his steps matching mine. The whole thing should have been normal. Injured player. Team captain helping him inside. Very appropriate. Very mature. Except my brain was not mature. My brain was currently standing on a balcony throwing rose petals and screaming, "My boyfriend is walking me home." Boyfriend. I had a boyfriend. Not just any boyfriend. Chris. The same Chris who looked like he had been carved out of discipline, bad decisions, and unfair bone structure. The same Chris who had turned into a one-man storm against Westfield because someone hurt me. Okay, technically because he wanted to win. Probably. Mostly. Maybe. When we reached my floor, Chris walked me all the way to my door. The hallway smelled like laundry detergent, cheap pizza, and freshman freedom. Someone was laughing behind a closed door. Somewhere else, music played too loudly for a weekday night. I stopped in front of my room and suddenly forgot how goodbyes worked. Chris looked down at me. "Ice your ankle." "I will." Elevated. "I know. No full contact practice until the trainer clears you." "Yes, captain." His eyes narrowed slightly, but his mouth softened. "Don't use that voice." "What voice?" "The one that makes it sound like you're pretending to listen." I blinked at him, deeply offended because he was correct. For 1 second we just stood there. And then the sweetness hit me so hard I almost forgot the problem. Chris wasn't just my boyfriend. He was still my captain. Tomorrow, or the day after, or whenever the trainer let me back into the gym, we would have to face coach, the team, Marcus, the locker room, the court, team time, practice, rules, boundaries. People would notice. Of course they would. Marcus had eyes and absolutely no respect for privacy. For half a second, worry tightened in my chest. Then my brain, because it was loyal to romance and allergic to reality, immediately offered another thought. Chris would handle it. My cold, handsome prince of organized basketball violence would look at anyone who dared tease us, and they would suddenly remember they valued their future. Chris would protect me, just like tonight. The thought made me smile so hard I forgot my ankle existed. Then I shifted my weight. Pain shot up my leg. I grabbed the door frame with a very dignified noise that sounded nothing like a dying duck. Chris caught my elbow. Careful. I was careful. You smiled and forgot you were injured. I looked away. That's a private medical opinion. Chris sighed, but this time he was definitely smiling. And maybe loving Chris was the most unbelievable thing that had ever happened to me. Maybe the harder part would be standing beside him at practice and pretending everything was normal. But for tonight, I had Chris's hand steady on my arm, his almost smile in the hallway, and the impossible truth that my dream had actually come true. So I looked up at him and whispered, "Good night, Chris." His gaze softened. "Good night, Antoine." Then he waited until I was safely inside before walking away. And yes, I watched him leave through the tiny crack in the door. For safety reasons. Obviously, the next few days proved that having a boyfriend was wonderful. Having a boyfriend who was also your team captain, your ride to practice, and the person most likely to ruin your ability to think in complete sentences? That was a medical emergency with better lighting. Because my ankle still wasn't fully healed, Coach said I could come to practice and watch from the stands instead of joining. Full drills. I told him I wanted to improve my observation skills. Which was true. Technically, I observed a lot. Mostly Chris. To be fair, Chris was on the court, so observing him counted as basketball research. If the NCAA had questions, I was prepared to defend myself with absolutely no dignity and several detailed notes about defensive rotations. Chris picked me up from my dorm that afternoon. He didn't make a big deal out of it. He just texted downstairs, like he was not actively becoming the reason my heart needed adult supervision. I limped outside with my backpack and tried to look normal. Chris was leaning against his car, wearing a Navy team shirt, black athletic shorts, and the kind of calm expression that made people trust him with game-winning possessions, and, unfortunately, my emotional stability. "You good?" he asked, eyes dropping to my ankle. "I'm great," I said. Very athletic. Extremely portable. His mouth twitched. "Get in. See. Romance. Very soft. Very poetic. Very Chris." At practice, I sat on the lower bleachers with my ankle propped up and a notebook open on my lap. I made sure to hold a pen, so I looked serious. Professional. Focused. A freshman student-athlete committed to learning from the sidelines. Then Chris ran his hand through his hair after a drill, and my pen stopped moving. This was not my fault. Some things were simply too powerful for the human body. He looked over once during a water break. Just once. A quick glance, barely a smile, but enough to make my entire nervous system stand up and salute. I looked down at my notebook immediately. I had written, "Spacing, transition defense." Chris smiled. "Help. Excellent notes. Very useful for team development." The scrimmage continued. Chris moved across the court like he had finally remembered the floor belonged to him, calling switches, pointing teammates into position, cutting sharply through traffic. Watching him from up close was worse than watching him on a screen. On a screen, I could pause the video. In real life, there was no pause button. There was only survival. Then it happened. Chris pulled the bottom of his shirt up to wipe sweat from his face. For one brief, devastating second, his stomach showed. My soul left my body, walked down the bleachers, and filed a formal resignation. Oh no. No, no, no. That was too much power for one person to have during a voluntary practice. I snapped my mouth shut because I was genuinely worried it had fallen open. A college gym was not the place to publicly lose a battle against someone's abs. I had standards. Low standards, apparently, but still. On the short ride back to my dorm, I sat in the passenger seat with my backpack on my lap, trying very hard to look like someone who had spent practice studying basketball instead of his boyfriend. Chris glanced at me, one hand resting on the steering wheel. "So," he said, What did you observe today? My body went cold. Caught. Arrested. Convicted. I sat up straighter. A lot. Yeah. I saw the way everyone moved, the spacing, the communication, the abs. I slapped a hand over my mouth. The car became silent. Dead silent. Then Chris slowly turned his head toward me. What abs? I stared at the dashboard like it contained legal assistance. I said abs. Abs. Yes. Basketball abs. For observation. Chris's eyebrow lifted. I cleared my throat. No. Actually, I said coordination. Movement. Team structure. Very normal sports words. Chris's mouth curved. I clearly heard abs. You heard wrong. I trust my captain hearing. That is not a thing. It is now. I looked out the window, face burning so hot I could probably fog the glass through sheer humiliation. Chris kept going, because apparently dating him meant learning he was dangerous in several different categories. So do you like watching abs? My head whipped toward him. Chris. He laughed. A real laugh. Soft, low, and so unfair that I briefly considered melting into the passenger seat for emotional relief. You're cute, he said. I pressed both hands over my face. You're terrible. You're teasing me. I am. At least deny it. No, by the time we reached my dorm, I had recovered exactly 0% of my dignity. Chris walked me all the way up anyway, one hand hovering near my back whenever I took a step too carefully. At my door, I suddenly forgot how goodbye worked again. I wanted to kiss him. Just one small goodbye kiss. Normal boyfriend behavior. The problem was that my courage had apparently been left somewhere in the gym, possibly near the place where Chris's shirt betrayed me. Chris looked at me for a second, then gently lifted my chin with his fingers. My brain shut off. Rest your ankle, he said. I nodded. Yeah, good night. His thumb brushed lightly near my jaw before he stepped back. Good night, Antoine. My mouth said good night. My brain was screaming into a pillow. A few days later, I was allowed back for light practice. No full contact, no pushing, no pretending I was invincible. I tried to act cool, like my ankle wasn't still a little sore and my boyfriend wasn't watching me every time I stepped unevenly. But Chris noticed everything. Every small wince. Every careful landing. Every time I tried to hide discomfort and failed like an amateur. I melted inside each time his eyes flicked toward me. Unfortunately, he was not subtle. And the team had eyes. Marcus noticed first, because of course he did. During a water break, he leaned against the scorer's table and looked between us with a grin. So, Marcus said, are we pretending we don't all know? Or are we doing the mature team thing, where we make fun of you both immediately? Water went down the wrong side of my throat. Chris turned toward him with the coldest face I had ever seen on someone who had held my chin 2 nights earlier. Focus, Chris said. Marcus's grin widened. That answers that. A few guys laughed. Not cruelly. Not unkindly. Just the kind of laughter that said, we saw this coming, and you two are terrible at hiding it. I tried to smile like I was calm. Inside, I was on fire. I had thought being found out would be the scariest part. I was wrong. The scarier part was the way Chris looked back at the court after that, jaw tight, like he had already decided something. And I had a feeling practice was about to become much harder for me. I was right. Practice did become harder. Not because coach suddenly decided to turn us into a military program with basketballs, although honestly, some of his conditioning drills came dangerously close. It became harder. Because Chris changed. Not in a loud way. Chris didn't stop talking to me. He didn't avoid me. He didn't suddenly act like I had embarrassed him by existing too close to his personal space. No, that would have been simple. Instead, Chris became fair. Terrifyingly fair. Painfully fair. The kind of fair that made me wonder if I had accidentally started dating a very handsome basketball rulebook. The first time it happened, I was running a light half-court drill because my ankle was still not fully cleared for contact. I caught a pass from Marcus near the wing, saw the defense shift, and sent the ball back out half a beat late. Not late enough to ruin everything. Just late enough for Chris to notice. Earlier, Antoine, Chris said immediately. His voice was calm, clean, captain-like. The whole team kept moving. I nodded. Got it. Outside, I looked normal. Inside, my brain immediately began protecting itself. Oh, he noticed me. That was sweet, right? Maybe this was what love looked like in basketball language. Some people got flowers. I got corrected in front of 8 sweaty teammates and one extremely amused Marcus. Romantic. Very niche, but romantic. A few minutes later, I cut toward the basket a step too early. The timing wasn't terrible, but it closed the passing lane before Chris could hit me. Hold your cut, Chris called. Read the screen first. Again, calm. Again, correct. Again, right in front of everyone. I told myself not to be embarrassed. Then my simp brain, which apparently had no sense of shame and absolutely no access to reality, whispered, "He's reminding you to focus because he cares." Amazing. Truly inspiring. My boyfriend could say, "Antoine, you are ruining spacing," and my brain would probably translate it into poetry. By the third correction, even I had to admit it was starting to feel less like romance and more like a personal performance review. We were running a controlled 5-on-5 set, nothing full contact, but I planted a little awkwardly after a closeout. It wasn't bad, just a small wince. Barely anything. Chris saw it from across the court. Of course he did. Out, he said. I blinked. I'm fine. You're favoring your ankle. I'm not. You are. Coach looked over. Antoine, take a minute. I stepped off the court, trying not to limp out of pure pride. My face felt hot. My heart, however, was ridiculous. Oh, he's caring about me. Yes, Antoine. Nothing says tender affection like being removed from practice so you don't mess up the team's spacing and possibly your ankle. Still, when Chris didn't look away until I sat down, something soft moved in my chest. And then something else hurt. Because I understood what he was doing. Chris was trying to be careful, trying not to give anyone a reason to think he favored me, trying to prove that whatever we were off the court would not change what he demanded on it. I understood that. I did. But understanding why something hurt did not magically make it stop hurting. By the end of practice, I had been corrected more than anyone else. Not cruelly, not unfairly, exactly. Every correction had a reason. That almost made it worse. Because I couldn't even be properly mad. Chris wasn't wrong. He was just too focused on proving he wasn't soft with me. Marcus noticed. Naturally, Marcus noticed everything except when coach told him to run conditioning sprints faster. During water break, he leaned against the wall beside me and watched Chris talk to one of the guards. You know, Marcus said, loud enough for at least 3 people to hear. Captain, fair doesn't mean emotionally destroying your boyfriend, right? I choked on my water. Actually choked. Very graceful. Very cool. Exactly the image I wanted to present as a serious college athlete. A couple of guys burst out laughing. Someone muttered, "He said it, not me." Chris turned slowly. His face went cold in that familiar captain way, but his ears betrayed him just a little. Barely pink. I saw it. Because apparently my special talent was noticing every crack in Chris's armor and then making it everyone's problem internally. Focus, Chris said. Marcus lifted both hands. I am focused. On team chemistry. More laughter. I wanted the floor to open up and accept me as one of its own. Instead, I pressed the cold water bottle against my face and looked anywhere except at Chris. The strange thing was, no one. Sounded mean. No disgust. No awkward silence. No cruel whispering. Just teasing. Curiosity. A few looks that said, we already know, and honestly, you two are bad at hiding it. That should have made me feel better. Maybe it did. A little. But when practice started again and Chris called my name sharper than anyone else's, I felt that tiny ache return. Maybe he was trying to protect me from the team's eyes. Maybe he thought if he was harder on me, no one could accuse him of choosing me first. But the problem was, the team was already watching. And I was starting to wonder if Chris was the only one who hadn't realized they had known all along. By the end of that practice, I had learned 2 important things. 1, my ankle was healing. 2, my emotional condition was getting worse. Because Chris being strict with me was confusing in the worst possible way. If he ignored me, I could be hurt. If he looked at me too much, I could melt. If he corrected me, part of me wanted to say, thank you for caring about my development as an athlete, and another part of me wanted to lie face down on the court until someone removed me with professional equipment. Very balanced. Very healthy. After the final drill, Coach blew his whistle and sent everyone to grab water. The guys spread toward the sideline, laughing again now that practice was over and no one had to pretend Marcus hadn't publicly called me Chris's boyfriend. I was reaching for my bottle when Coach's voice cut across the gym. "Chris, Antoine, stay back for a minute." My hand froze around the bottle. Oh no, there were many sentences you did not want to hear from a coach. "Run it again. Everybody on the line. And stay back for a minute." Chris stopped near half court. His face didn't change, but I saw his shoulders tighten. Of course I saw it. At this point, noticing Chris's micro-expressions was basically my second sport. The rest of the team slowed down just enough to be nosy. Marcus, because subtlety had never been invited into his life, turned around while walking backward. Coach looked at him. Marcus immediately faced forward, leaving. Very gone. A few guys laughed and disappeared into the locker room. Then it was just Coach, Chris, and me standing in the middle of the gym, with the late afternoon light cutting through the high windows and the court shining under our shoes. Coach didn't look angry. That almost made me more nervous. Angry Coach was simple. Angry Coach meant you ran, apologized, and questioned your life choices. Calm Coach meant he was about to say something that would follow you home. He looked at Chris first, then at me. "I'm going to say this once," Coach said. "And I'm saying it now so we don't have to make it bigger than it needs to be." My stomach dropped. I tried to stand straighter. Unfortunately, my ankle reminded me that dramatic posture was not medically recommended. Chris's eyes flicked down to my foot for half a second. Half a second. That was all. But my heart, because it had the emotional discipline of a golden retriever, immediately whispered, "He noticed." Coach folded his arms. "I don't care who you're dating." The gym went very quiet. My face became hot so fast I briefly wondered if I could be used as an emergency heater for the athletic department. Chris stayed still. Coach continued, voice even. "That's not my business unless it affects this team." I swallowed. There it was. This team. The thing Chris cared about. The thing he had almost lost. The thing he was so afraid of damaging that he had started treating me like a basketball exam he had to grade in public. Coach pointed toward the court beneath us. "But on this court, your teammates first. No favoritism. No drama in my locker room. You win together, or you sit together." His words didn't sound cruel. They sounded like rules. Clear. Direct. American coach energy in its purest form. I nodded quickly. "Yes, Coach." Chris nodded too, but he didn't speak. And that was how I knew it hit him. Not the dating part. Not the locker room part. The favoritism part. Coach's eyes stayed on Chris for another second. "That also means you don't overcorrect to prove a point." Chris's jaw tightened. I looked at the floor because if I looked at Chris, my face might start telling the truth without permission. Coach looked between us again. "You're both good players. You can make each other better. But only if you stop making the whole court carry whatever you're not saying." Oh, that one landed in my chest too. Because Coach was right. Chris and I had spent so much time trying not to be obvious that we had somehow become extremely obvious. Coach stepped back. "Figure it out before next practice." Then he pointed toward the locker room. "Go." That was it. No lecture about maturity. No warning that we had ruined the team. No dramatic speech about focus and sacrifice that would make this feel like a sports movie from 2006. Just boundaries. Clear ones. And strangely, that made me feel lighter. Embarrassed, yes. Deeply. Historically. If embarrassment were a sport, I would have qualified for nationals. But lighter too. Coach didn't hate us. He didn't act like what we had was disgusting or impossible or dangerous. He just wanted us to stop being idiots with sneakers. Honestly, fair. When Coach walked away, silence settled between Chris and me. I looked at him. Chris was staring at the court, his expression tight. I tried to smile. Well, that was less terrifying than being yelled at. Chris didn't answer. I shifted my weight carefully. Also, for the record, I think "you win together" or "you sit together" was kind of motivational. Harsh, but catchy. Could be on a team poster. Still nothing. My smile faded. "Chris." He finally looked at me. There was no anger in his face. That was worse. There was fear. Quiet, controlled, familiar fear. The same kind I had seen before, back when he thought I was coming to replace him. Only now, it had changed shape. Coach wasn't what scared Chris. The team wasn't what scared him either. Chris was scared of himself. Scared that one wrong decision, one obvious glance, one pass that looked too soft, would make everyone stop trusting him again. And suddenly I understood. He wasn't just trying to protect the team from us. He was trying to protect the team from himself. The next practice started with Coach's words still sitting in my head. No favoritism. No drama. Teammates first. It sounded simple when Coach said it. Very clean. Very mature. Very suitable for a motivational poster in a gym hallway. Unfortunately, feelings did not read. Posters. Chris barely spoke during warm-ups. He wasn't cold exactly. Not the way he used to be before everything happened. But he was careful. Too careful. He passed me the ball when the drill required it. He corrected me when I missed a rotation. He looked at me only long enough to be normal, which was somehow the least normal thing he had ever done. I hated it. Not loudly. Not in a dramatic, throw my water bottle against the wall kind of way. More like a small ache under my ribs every time Chris acted like I was just another jersey on the court, which was unfair of me. Because wasn't that what we wanted? Teammates first. Boyfriends after. Except my heart, that useless little traitor, kept whispering, sure. But does he have to be so professional about it? Coach split us into two groups for an internal scrimmage. First unit against second unit. Controlled tempo. Game situations. Make the right reads, he said, clapping once as everyone took position. No forcing. Chris brought the ball up for our side. I started in the corner, light on my feet, ankle finally feeling close to normal. Marcus guarded me at first, grinning like he had been waiting all day to become a problem. You ready, freshman? Marcus asked. I gave him my best cool face. Always. Inside, I was thinking, please don't let me trip. Please don't let Chris look at me too long. Please don't let Marcus say anything about boyfriends while I am trying to be athletic. The play began. Chris called the set with 2 fingers raised. Everyone shifted. Marcus bumped me lightly as I cut across the baseline, but I slipped around him and curled toward the right corner. Open. Perfectly open. I knew it the second it happened. The defense collapsed toward the lane. Chris had the ball near the top of the key. His eyes scanned left, then right. The passing lane to me was clear. According to the play, that ball should have come to me. I lifted my hands. For half a second, Chris looked straight at me and hesitated. It was small. So small no one in the bleachers would have noticed if there had been bleachers full of people. But I noticed because I was Antoine, and noticing tiny changes in Chris had become my unwanted specialty. His fingers tightened on the ball. His eyes flicked toward the sideline, toward Coach, toward the guys watching. Then Chris looked away from me and passed to Tyler on the wing instead. Tyler was covered. Not completely, but enough. The pass reached him a little late. The defender jumped the lane, tipped the ball loose, and Marcus scooped it up with a shout. Go, go. The second unit ran in transition. Someone finished at the rim. The ball dropped through the net. Coach blew the whistle so hard the sound cracked through the gym. Everyone stopped. Sneakers squeaked once, then went silent. Chris stood near the top of the key, one hand on his hip, the other hanging at his side. He didn't look at me. That made it worse. Because if he had ignored me completely, I could have been angry. If he had passed to me and I missed, I could have blamed myself. But this was different. He had seen me. He had chosen not to trust what he saw. Coach walked onto the court slowly, his whistle still in his hand. Chris, he said. Chris lifted his chin. Bad pass. No, Coach said. The whole gym seemed to hold its breath. Coach looked at him, not angry, but sharp. That wasn't fairness, Chris. That was fear. The words hit the floor harder than any whistle could have. Chris went still. I felt it in my own chest. Because Coach was right. And I hated that he was right. Chris hadn't skipped me because I was wrong. He hadn't chosen Tyler because Tyler was the better red. Chris had done it because I was his boyfriend, and in his head, passing to me meant everyone would see feelings instead of basketball. The worst part was, I understood. I understood so much it hurt. Chris wasn't trying to punish me. He wasn't trying to pretend I didn't matter. He was terrified that if he chose me once, even for the right reason, the team would stop seeing him as a captain and start seeing him as a guy who couldn't separate love from the game. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. standing there in the corner, hands still half raised from a past that never came. I felt stupidly lonely. And then, because my brain had terrible timing, it whispered, "He looked at you." First though, great, wonderful. Even my heartbreak was trying to turn crumbs into romance. Coach pointed toward me. Antoine was open. Chris's jaw tightened. Coach continued, calm but firm. "The right play is the right play. I don't care who he is to you off the court." A few guys shifted quietly. Marcus's face had lost its usual grin. Chris finally looked at me. Only for a second. But in that second, I saw it. Regret. Fear. And something that looked painfully close to asking me not to hate him. I looked down first. Not because I hated him. Because I didn't. That was the problem. I knew Chris wasn't trying to ignore me. But for the first time since we became something more than teammates, I realized his fear could still change the way he played. And if Chris let fear make decisions for him on the court, then sooner or later, it wouldn't just hurt me. It would hurt the whole team. Practice ended 20 minutes later, but the air in the gym still felt heavy. Usually, after a scrimmage, the guys would talk trash, argue about who got fouled, or complain that coach's definition of light conditioning was legally questionable. That day, everyone moved quieter. Not silent, just careful. The kind of careful people became when they had all seen something happen but weren't sure if they were supposed to talk about it. Chris barely said a word after coach called him out. He finished the drills. He corrected one defensive rotation. He nodded when coach spoke. Perfect captain behavior, which meant absolutely nothing. Because I knew him now. Or at least, I knew enough to recognize when Chris was standing in the middle of the court while his mind was somewhere much darker. When coach dismissed us, the guys drifted toward the locker room. Marcus glanced at me once, then at Chris, then lifted both eyebrows like he was silently saying, "You two should probably do something before I am forced to become emotionally responsible." Terrifying thought. Marcus with emotional responsibility could destroy the entire program. Chris grabbed his water bottle and started walking toward the hallway beside the locker room. I followed. Not too close. Not dramatically. Just close enough that, when he realized I was there, he stopped near the vending machines and looked back at me. His face was calm. Too calm. "Your ankle okay?" Chris asked. Of course that was the first thing he said. Not, "I'm sorry I didn't pass to you." Not, "Coach was right." Not, "I am currently losing a war against my own fear and would appreciate emotional support." No. Chris went straight to ankle maintenance. Very romantic. Very medically responsible. "My ankle's fine," I said. Chris nodded once. "Good." Then he turned like he was going to leave. I caught his wrist before I could overthink it. He stopped. His eyes dropped to my hand. I let go quickly, because apparently touching your boyfriend in a hallway after practice could still make my body act like I had stolen government property. "We need to talk," I said. Chris looked toward the locker room door. "Here. Unless you want coach to give us a second speech about team time and emotional baggage." That got the tiniest reaction from him. Not a smile. More like the memory of one. He stepped farther down the hallway, where the noise from the team faded behind the door. The hallway smelled like rubber flooring, old sweat, and vending machine snacks. Very glamorous setting for a relationship discussion. I leaned against the wall carefully, keeping weight off my ankle even though I hated proving Chris right. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I took a breath. "You don't have to treat me better because we're together," I said. Chris's jaw tightened. I kept my voice calm, even though my chest was doing that annoying thing where it tried to become a drumline. "But you also don't have to treat me worse just to prove you're fair." Chris looked away. That hurt more than I wanted it to. So I kept going before I lost my courage. "I don't need you to favor me," I said. "I don't want that. If I mess up, correct me. If I'm late on a cut, call me out. If I'm not cleared to play, bench me before I do something stupid." His eyes flicked back to my ankle. I pointed at him. "Do not look proud of yourself." Chris almost blinked like he had been caught. "Good. Tiny victory. But if I'm open," I continued, quieter now, "and the play says I'm the right pass, then pass to me. Not because I'm your boyfriend. Because I'm your teammate." The word teammate sat between us. Chris's shoulders lowered a little, but his face stayed guarded. I hated that face. I loved that face. Very inconvenient combination. You can't turn me into the place where you prove you're still a fair captain, I said. That's not fair either. Chris finally spoke, voice low. I know. I waited. For once, I did not fill the silence with a joke. That was personal growth. Uncomfortable, but impressive. Chris rubbed a hand over his face. I'm trying not to mess this up. The team. His eyes met mine. Everything. Oh, that word landed soft and heavy at the same time. Chris leaned back against the opposite wall, arms crossed. After the semifinal, I spent months thinking one bad decision made everyone trust me less. Then I finally started feeling like I had it back. His voice roughened. And now, if I pass to you, if I look at you too long, if I make one decision people can question, he stopped. But I understood. He was scared, not of me replacing him anymore, of us becoming the reason people doubted him again. I should have said something wise, something emotionally mature and supportive. Instead, because I was still me, I tilted my head and said, that really doesn't sound like the Chris who teased me about abs. Chris stared at me. For one awful second, I thought I had ruined the moment. Then he laughed. Not loudly, not fully, but enough. A short, surprised laugh broke through his serious expression, and my heart immediately acted like it had been personally blessed by the basketball gods. That's what you're bringing up right now, he asked. I'm just saying. I replied, trying very hard to look cool while my insides were doing cartwheels. That Chris seemed very confident. Annoying, but confident. Chris shook his head, but the tension in his shoulders had loosened. You're impossible, he said, yet somehow still open in the corner. His eyes softened. That was better than a kiss. Almost. Not better, actually, but close enough to be dangerous. Chris stepped closer, careful, like he was afraid of making the wrong move again. I'm sorry. My throat tightened. I nodded. I know. I'll do better. Good, I said, because if I said anything softer, my voice might betray me. Because I'm very pass-worthy. Chris's mouth twitched. That is not how you say that. It is now. This time, his smile stayed a second longer. And for the first time all day, I felt like maybe he could breathe again. Chris had stopped being afraid that I would replace him. But he still hadn't learned how to let me stand beside him in front of the whole team. Not completely. Still, when we walked back toward the locker room together, his shoulder brushed mine once. He didn't move away. Maybe that meant he would be okay. Maybe we would. For about 5 minutes, I believed Chris and I had fixed everything. That was adorable of me. Really. Freshman optimism should be studied in a lab. Chris had apologized. He had laughed. He had brushed my shoulder with his, and not moved away like touching me would immediately destroy team structure. I walked into the locker room feeling almost hopeful. Not loudly hopeful. Quietly hopeful. The kind of hopeful that whispered, maybe we are not a disaster. Then Marcus looked at us, grinned, and said, you two look suspiciously emotionally processed. I stopped walking. Chris didn't. He just grabbed a towel from his locker and said, Marcus. One word. Warning. Unfortunately, Marcus had never respected warning signs. I was starting to think he saw them as decoration. What? Marcus asked, opening his locker. I'm just saying. Earlier, the whole gym felt like a therapy session with sneakers, and now you're both standing normally. That's growth. A couple of guys laughed. I sat on the bench and pretended to untie my shoes with great concentration. My laces had never been so fascinating. Chris gave Marcus a look. Drop it. Marcus lifted both hands. Fine. Drop. He dropped it for exactly 7 seconds. Then he turned to one of the seniors, Jordan, and said, but you saw it, right? Jordan, who was usually quiet and had the calm energy of someone who had survived 3 seasons under coach, looked up from his bag. Everybody saw it, he said. The room went quieter. Not bad quiet. Just honest quiet. Chris stopped moving. I looked at him without meaning to, and instantly regretted it because his face had gone still again. Not cold. Not angry. More like he was waiting for a hit he already knew was coming. Marcus must have noticed too, because his grin faded a little. Cap. Marcus said, softer now, we're not blind. Chris shut his locker with more control than force. I know. No, I mean. Marcus scratched the back of his neck, suddenly looking less like the team clown and more like an actual person with thoughts. Terrifying development. We can tell something's going on with you too. My body considered evaporating, just leaving the locker room completely, becoming steam, joining the ventilation system. A peaceful life. But nobody laughed. Nobody made a face. Nobody said anything cruel. Jordan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. That's not the part we care about. Chris looked at him. Jordan's voice stayed steady. Cap, nobody cares if you like him. We care if you stop passing to the open man because you're scared of what we think. The words landed hard. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just true. Chris didn't answer. I forgot how to breathe for half a second. Because hearing it from Coach had been one thing. Coach was authority. Coach made rules, blew whistles, and had the terrifying ability to make the phrase on the line sound like a threat to your entire bloodline. But hearing it from the team was different. Jordan wasn't saying, don't date Antoine. Marcus wasn't saying, this is weird. They were saying, trust us enough to keep playing basketball. Chris's throat moved. You guys don't think it's a problem? He asked. The room went so still that even Marcus didn't immediately make a joke. Then Marcus blinked. That you like Antoine? I tried to disappear into my shoe. It did not work. Marcus pointed at me. I mean, questionable taste, but not a team problem. Hey, I said automatically. Marcus nodded. There he is. Still alive. A few guys laughed, and this time the laughter loosened something in the room. Jordan glanced at Chris again. The problem is when you stop trusting the play because you're worried we're judging you. Another teammate, Tyler, shrugged from across the room. Honestly, I'm more offended you passed me the ball when I was covered. Like, man, don't use me as your emotional escape route. That got everyone. Even Chris almost smiled. Almost. I looked down quickly because seeing Chris nearly smile in a locker room full of teammates after being emotionally called out felt like too much for my already fragile heart. Marcus sat beside me and bumped my shoulder lightly. You okay, freshman? I'm considering transferring to a school where people mind their business. No school like that exists. Then I'll become a lighthouse keeper. Good luck with your ankle. I hated that I laughed. Chris looked at me when I did. Only for a second. But the look was different. Less guarded. Like something in him had finally heard the thing I couldn't make him believe alone. Maybe the team did not care the way he feared. Maybe all those eyes on us had not been waiting to accuse him. Maybe they had just been waiting for him to stop running from them. Coach's voice echoed from outside the locker room, telling everyone to hurry up if they wanted to finish conditioning before dinner. The guys groaned. Normal team misery returned immediately. Marcus stood and clapped his hands once. All right, lovebirds and losers, let's go suffer. Marcus, Chris said. What? I included everyone. The room laughed again, and for once, Chris didn't look like the sound hurt him. As we walked back toward the court, I ended up beside him. Not too close. Not obviously. Just enough. Chris spoke quietly, eyes forward. You heard all that. I looked at the hardwood ahead of us. Most of it. He exhaled. I didn't know they thought that. Yeah, I said. Apparently the team is more emotionally mature than both of us. Chris glanced at me. I gave him my most serious face. Especially Marcus. Which is deeply concerning. This time, Chris really did smile. Small. Quick. But real. My heart immediately tried to do a victory lap around the gym. For the first time, I wondered if the problem had never been that the team wouldn't accept us. Maybe the problem was that Chris hadn't trusted them enough to let them. And maybe, if he could, trust them a little more, he could trust me on the court too. By the next scrimmage, something in the gym felt different. Not huge. Not dramatic. Nobody gave a speech. Marcus did not hand out emotional growth certificates, which honestly felt like a missed opportunity and also a threat to public safety. But the air was lighter. Chris still looked serious when he walked onto the court. That part had not changed. He still had that focused captain face, the one that made freshmen stand straighter and made my brain whisper, there he is, unfortunately perfect. But he wasn't stiff anymore. Not the same way. When coach split us into lineups, Chris took the ball near the top of the key and glanced at everyone like he was reading the floor instead of reading their judgment. That alone made my chest loosen. Coach clapped from the sideline. Game speed. First unit, run the set. Defense, don't make it easy. Marcus, guarding me, grinned. You hear that, freshman? Don't make it easy. You're the defense, I said. Exactly. I'm talking to myself. It's called leadership. I nodded solemnly. Very inspiring. Chris looked over for half a second. The corner of his mouth almost moved. Almost. I nearly forgot the play. This was why dating your captain should come with a warning label. Possible side effects include poor focus, emotional overheating, and the sudden desire to write poetry about a man passing a basketball. The whistle blew. Chris dribbled once, then raised 2 fingers. Everyone moved. The set started clean. Tyler screened high. Jordan cut toward the lane. Marcus stayed close to me, bumping my shoulder just enough to be annoying but not enough to get called. I waited. That was the hard part. Basketball was not just running fast and jumping high. Sometimes it was patience, timing, trusting that the ball would come when it was supposed to. Trust. Funny word. Terrible word. The kind of word that had caused me and Chris several emotional injuries already. I started in the corner, then drifted up as the defense shifted. Jordan pulled one defender with him. Tyler rolled hard toward the basket. Marcus turned his head for half a second. That was all I needed. I cut. Sharp. Right through the gap. For one clean second, I was open. Very open. The kind of open that made every basketball instinct in my body scream. Now, Chris saw me. I knew he did. His eyes snapped to mine. His hand shifted on the ball. And then he hesitated. Just half a second. Barely anything. But I felt it across the court like a finger pressing on a bruise. The entire gym seemed to notice too. Not loudly. Nobody gasped. Nobody froze like we were in a soap opera with sneakers. But there was a tiny pause in the room. Coach leaned forward. Marcus stopped talking. Even my own heartbeat seemed to wait. For half a second, I thought Chris would look away again. I thought fear would win one more time. Then Chris stepped into the pass. The ball left his hands fast. Clean. Strong. Perfect. Not soft. Not apologetic. Not careful in that painful way he had been before. It came straight to me because I was open. Because I was the right choice. My hands closed around it. For a second, I almost smiled like an idiot. Terrible idea. Defenders loved idiots. I caught, planted, and went up before Marcus could recover. The ball rolled off my fingers and dropped through the net with that beautiful sound that made every muscle in my body remember why I loved this game. Swish. The gym erupted. Not like a real crowd, but close enough. Guys shouted. Someone slapped the padding on the wall. Marcus threw both hands up like he had personally been betrayed by character development. Wow, he said. So brave. Passing to the open man. Groundbreaking captain work. A few guys laughed. Coach pointed at Chris. That's the read. Then he pointed at me. That's the finish. I landed carefully because my ankle and I were trying to rebuild our relationship. But I didn't celebrate too much. I couldn't. I was looking at Chris. He stood near the top of the key, breathing steady, face calm. But his eyes were different. Softer. Not soft enough for anyone else to make a big deal out of it. But enough for me. Unfortunately, enough for me was dangerous. Enough for me could power a small city if Chris looked at me for too long. I wanted to grin. I wanted to run over to him. I wanted to say, see, the world didn't end. The team didn't collapse. Nobody accused you of ruining basketball because you passed to your boyfriend. Instead, I gave him one small nod. Normal teammate nod. Very casual. Very mature. Inside, my brain was throwing confetti. Chris nodded back. That was it. 2 tiny nods across the court. And somehow it felt more intimate than half the things we had done alone. Because this wasn't secret. This wasn't us hiding in a hallway, whispering around our fears. This was Chris choosing the right play in front of everyone. This was him trusting me where the whole team could see. Coach blew the whistle again. Run it back. We reset. This time, when Chris brought the ball up, he didn't look like he was carrying a trial on his shoulders. He looked like a captain. My captain. No, our captain. That distinction mattered. A few possessions later, he passed to Jordan. Then Tyler. Then me again when I was open on the wing. Every pass was just basketball. And somehow, because of that, every pass meant more. By the time practice ended, I was tired, sweaty, and dangerously happy. Marcus walked by me and muttered, "For the record, if you two start making trust cute, I'm filing a complaint." I smiled. With who? Coach. The NCAA. God. Who Whoever answers first. I laughed before I could stop myself. Across the gym, Chris looked over at the sound. This time, he didn't look away quickly. And for the first time since we became something more than teammates, I didn't feel like us was pulling the team down. Maybe loving Chris didn't make the game harder. Maybe it just meant we had to learn how to play it honestly. Together. After practice, the gym emptied slower than usual. Guys were still talking about the last scrimmage set, mostly because Marcus had decided that Chris passing me the ball was apparently a historic event that deserved public commentary. I'm just saying. Marcus announced while tossing a towel over his shoulder. That pass had character development. Chris didn't even look at him. Locker room. See? Still bossy. Balance restored. A few guys laughed as they headed off. Coach had already disappeared into his office after giving us one satisfied nod, which from Coach basically counted as a standing ovation and a handwritten poem all in one. I stayed behind to collect a few balls that had rolled toward the baseline. Not because I needed to, mostly because Chris was still there. Very mature reason. Very athlete-focused. I bent down carefully, picked up a ball, and placed it on the rack. My ankle felt fine now, just a little stiff after practice, but I had learned not to challenge my ankle too loudly. It had a dramatic personality and a history of betrayal. Chris grabbed the last ball near half court and walked toward me. For a moment, neither of us said anything. The gym was quieter now. No whistles, no shouting, just the faint hum of the lights and the soft echo of sneakers on hardwood. Chris set the ball on the rack beside mine. Good finish today, he said. I tried to act normal. I failed internally. Good finish. 2 words. Very professional. Very teammate appropriate. And somehow my brain still turned them into a romantic national holiday. Good pass, I said. Chris looked at me, and the corner of his mouth moved. It was the right pass. I nodded. I know. And I did. That was what made it feel different. He hadn't passed to me because he liked me. He hadn't avoided me because he was scared of liking me. He had seen the court, seen me open, and made the play. It sounded simple. But for us, simple had taken a lot of emotional damage. One coach speech, one team intervention, and Marcus becoming terrifyingly useful. Chris leaned back against the ball rack, arms crossed. Teammates first. His voice was quiet, but it didn't sound like a warning this time. It sounded like an agreement. I looked at him and tried to look serious. I really did. But my mouth betrayed me. Boyfriends after? Chris glanced toward the locker room door, like he was making sure Marcus hadn't developed superhuman hearing. Then he looked back at me. Always. My heart immediately collapsed into a very small, very happy pile. I wanted to say something smooth. Something cool. Something that proved I had grown emotionally over the last few weeks and was now capable of handling affection from my boyfriend like a stable adult. Instead, I smiled so hard my face probably looked unsafe. Good answer, I said. Chris shook his head, but he was smiling too. A real one. Small, private, and still powerful enough to ruin my entire week in the best way possible. We started walking toward the exit together. Not holding hands. Not in the middle of the gym where anyone could walk in and make it a whole thing. Just side by side, shoulders close, steps falling into the same rhythm. That felt right. On the court, we had to be teammates first. Not because we were hiding, not because we were ashamed, but because the game deserved honesty. The team deserved trust. And Chris deserved to know that loving me didn't make him less of a captain. I had thought love would be the dangerous part. It wasn't. The dangerous part was fear. Fear made Chris hesitate. Fear made me overthink. Fear made something good feel like a problem before we even gave it a chance to become real. But now, walking out of the gym beside him, I felt lighter. Then Chris ruined my peace in the most Chris way possible. Come by my apartment tonight, he said. I'll cook for you. I stopped walking. Slowly, I turned my head. Chris kept his eyes forward, like he had not just casually attacked my entire nervous system. You cook? Yes. For me, that's usually what I'll cook for you means. I narrowed my eyes. Just cooking. The words came out quieter than I intended. Unfortunately, Chris heard them. Of course he did. He looked at me, one eyebrow lifting. Or do you want to see abs too? My soul exited my body, tripped on the gym floor, and fell directly into embarrassment. Chris. What? His face was calm, but his eyes were smiling. I'm asking. You're not asking. You're attacking. I'm being honest. No, you're being evil. Chris stepped closer, still smiling that tiny, dangerous smile. You were the one observing. I was injured and vulnerable. You were staring. I was studying. Abs. Basketball. Right. I covered my face with one hand. Chris, stop. He gently caught my wrist and lowered my hand, then brushed his thumb against my cheek. The touch was soft enough to make every sarcastic thought in my head vanish. You're cute. You know that, he said. I stared at him. That was unfair. He knew it was unfair. Before I could recover, Chris leaned in and kissed me lightly. Not long, not dramatic, just soft enough to make the empty gym disappear for a second. When he pulled back, I was pretty sure my brain had become useless. Chris looked far too pleased with himself. Dinner at 7, he said. I nodded because words were no longer available. Then we walked out together. On the court, we were teammates. Outside it, we were learning how to be something more. And this time, Chris didn't push me away. Loving Chris didn't make us weaker. Hiding from what we were afraid of did. And maybe that was what made us stronger now. Not the kiss, not the secret, not even the way he looked at me when no one was watching. It was the trust. On the court, off the court, and everywhere in between.